In the meantime, we'll get started with Kristi and Emily here. Okay, let's get started with talking about your presentations today. What did you guys make and are you sharing with everyone? What's your freebie? And we'll start with Emily on this.
Hi. I I did Christmas ornaments, and I'm actually on vacation at the lake, and so I don't actually have my specific ornaments with me that I showed, but I have a couple others because where I'm at is really inspirational to me, and it's kind of where some of them came from. Um, and so one of the examples that I show in there is similar to this one, where it's a watercolor that I sublimated on. Um, so I think I did a few different ways to sublimate the on different substrates, different ornaments. And I have my giveaways are the files that I used, and then the bonus ones are some additional files that they can all be used to sublimate different Christmas ornaments and get you started.
So good. So good. Um, I know you're at the lake because I saw that you're at the lake. So she can't show you the specific things, but you guys go check out the freebie for that. I think you guys are going to really love it. Kristi.
Yeah, so glad to be here today and be with y'all. So my freebie is a headband that is for your birthday. So your birthday or someone else's. I tried to turn my blur off. It's not off, but anyway, that's my freebie for attendees. And then my VIP or all access pass, I should say, is a hat and some flags, some printable flags that you can get to help celebrate your next party or your dog. That's part of my picture, sorry. But those are my goodies. So glad to be here today. Thanks, Carina.
That's awesome. So are you working with the Silhouette and Cricut machine today with everyone?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a Silhouette and I have a Cricut. The label on the class is on the video is for Silhouette because that's my primary, but I do also obviously these files can be used for Cricut as well. So
yeah. And then Emily, yours is sublimation, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
but a couple of the things can be used, can be cut out of on the Cricut as well because I like doing both. So
Love it. All right, Jalin, I'm glad we got you in. Your iPad's working.
So my freebie is SVGs. I've got this one. It's hard to see. Inhale confidence, exhale doubt. And then also the bag. It's a grandma and grandma SVG. What you get to do as a grandma, you get to play and have fun and hug them. And
I love it. So good. And then tell a little bit about your class. Like, are you showing them how to iron on, to put it on a t-shirt or something else?
I'm going through the whole process to be able to talk about what you do on the computer. And I'm using Silhouette, Cameo. And so we talk about that, and then I take them over to the heat press, and I even show them how to weed it, which means taking out the unnecessary items in it, and then we press it and do the whole process.
Yeah, I love it. I love that today we have two panelists doing SVGs and then we have sublimation just to give you guys an idea of all the different things you can do, which is so awesome. So let's talk about your guys's business design journey. Why a design business? Why even bother getting into this? What makes you love doing what you're doing? And we'll start with Kristi on this one.
yeah, sure. So I've thought about this because this design business has been a journey for me. We'll probably talk maybe more about that later, but really my whole entire life, I remember being a little girl watching my mom do crafting, sewing forever. Like that was just literally, it was dinner and that was what she did all day. So I kind of grew up with that. Well, then as I got older, had kids, family, all the things, I started in that process, right? Thought I would never do it, but I did. And so I started sewing, I started quilting, I started then Silhouette, the Cricut, all these things were coming out, right? And I started with all of it. So I'm not a one-man show. My sister always tells me, but you like to do everything. I'm like, yeah, you're right, I do. Which is why my craft room has so much stuff in it, right? So for me, a design business, I was doing all of that, taught Silhouette classes. I even worked at a quilt shop on purpose just so I could learn about the fabrics and the designers and the bolts and the main prints and all of that, the masters and all of that. So I did all that for so many years, and I kept thinking there's got to be a way to make money on this. There's got to be a way to get this going other than me. I cannot sew enough quilts or enough silhouette projects to just sell them and ship them enough to be able to support or have a secondary income, right? And so there's where Carina comes in. And I mean that with all sense of everything in me, that I'm like, what is going on? What am I going to do with all this? I was at the point of almost just getting rid of everything because I felt like I was trying to do stuff and didn't have any purpose to it, right? Other than my enjoyment. Let's just give it that. But here comes Carina. And then I decided, oh my gosh, there's the glue. I've said this a million times in our group. There's the glue to all these pieces. There's the purpose. That's the sticky part, right? I know how to do the silhouette, all these things. And then when Carina came around, it was like, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's why I've been learning all of this. And so I said, that's it. There was zero question on where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing and build a design business to be able to, whatever that looks like. Now, once that started, that's been the journey. So, but yeah, that's my thing as to why I wanted to do this. And it is absolutely just ignited my passion for all those crafty things I've been doing my whole life and all the stuff I've been buying, right?
And you can see what a good crafter Kristi is by just her projects. Like seriously, hold up your projects again, because they're
I don't know which
adorable.
one, but yeah, they're literally.
Seriously, you guys,
I forgot to say I'm gonna teach y'all how to make this little fringe as well. So that's nothing really to do with the silhouette, but it's just an addition to the product. And I've always done parties. And so I've kind of like honed in, again, I'm working on this, but honed in on, hey, wait a minute. So I'm having to stay in my lane and do what I stay in one lane, which is what Carina teaches in all of her classes and books and stuff. But yeah, so it just gave purpose. That's literally it. It gave purpose as to why I was learning and doing all these things. So I love it too. I'm not where I want to be in it because I work a corporate job, but I have to do this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
You guys will also see this with this group. All of them have a little bit different circumstances, but Kristi does work full time plus some, right? So plus I actually think this group, interesting enough, all have special needs kids as well. I just like looked around the room and I'm like, oh, everyone here has.
That's right, we do.
I have a special needs kid as well. So that actually makes a huge difference. If those of you who do have special needs kids, like that is a big chunk of time as you try to figure it out to make it all happen. So the thing is that this can happen for you, even with all the things that you are either struggling with time-wise or mentally as you're trying to do it. There's still good reasons to start a design business, because I promise you, we see this all the time in Design Suite. People come in, they're like, this is a real struggle for me. These are the things going on with my family. And we're like, you can still do it. You absolutely can still do it. And I empathize. I really do, because I've been through it as well. So
Carina, can I add one more thing to that just real quick? On the special needs kid, we've talked about so the whole thing of this whole process, I thought it was to make cute stuff, right? It's been way more than that. And I say that because the daughter with special needs that I have, and then I have I have more than two, but anyway, those two specifically, that was the other reason behind this is I want them to know how to make stuff because they are amazing artists in their own way. My 14-year-old has a Redbubble shop already that she is just killing it, stealing my iPad all the time. So we've now graduated that she's going to need her own. I say that to say this is more than just me making these cute crafts, right? For me, it's way more than that. It is about a legacy for my kids. And I know people say that and it sounds so cheesy and woo-woo. That is exactly what's happening. I'm helping my special needs daughter to create an income for herself to where one day when I'm not here, she's covered, she's good to go. And then my 14-year-old to have her business already. What in the world? So anyway, yeah. I just wanted to add that.
And we do encourage that in Design Suite. We encourage you to, like a lot of people are like, you're the only person. I'm like, if they're in your family, they should be watching the videos. They can't necessarily come to meetings, but they can watch all the replays. We encourage you to teach your children. And with that, we'll move on to Emily, because I know she hired her son this summer and had a few things with him. But let's talk about your design business a little bit, Emily, and what you've been doing. And then also, Emily has encouraged her girls to go do creative careers as well. So will you talk about that, Emily?
Yeah. I actually have always been creative. In fact, where I'm sitting right now on Lake Erie is my grandmother's home, and my grandmother taught me to crochet at 5. She was teaching my older cousin because I was too young. I'm the only one of my cousins that know how to crochet. And so I was always crafting and whatnot. And I went to school for marketing and business because I wanted to have some sort of creative business. Life took me on different journeys, and I never, even though I could do the art work of some sort, I knew the business side of thing. I could put it together for other people. I wasn't putting it together for myself. And like Kristi said, Kristi and I have been in this and Design Suite the same time. I think we came in at the same time.
3 years.
3 years, yes. And we came in at the same time. And yeah, you popped up in my life at the right time when I needed it, because I had a business that was that kind of, it exploded during COVID, but fizzled out quickly also because of COVID. And I had not figured out a way to parlay that into something else. And I was looking to do more digital stuff. I'm always crafting something, I'm always creating something, but I was definitely looking to do more digital, so that I wasn't always a slave to my craft room and able to, take stuff with me and do other stuff. So, I'm sitting here, but I've got my iPad and everything. So this has enabled me to really pull it together. And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I know this. Why couldn't I? It's just that it's sometimes that you need that extra kick in the butt of somebody saying, this is what you need to do. And you're like, yeah, I know that. Oh, okay, I really need to do it. So it's the accountability, and it's having the colleagues, essentially. It's like, having people there for me and whatnot. So yeah. And I have my oldest daughter is actually a nursing student, but I've done a lot of projects for her sorority. She comes to me and she's like, "Can you do this? Can you do this?" And I do. And then my middle daughter is my middle child is actually in grad school for graphic, or I'm sorry, she's in college for graphic design. And so she's really excited now that I'm going to be doing your next program. She's like, I'm finally, because I did not go the graphic design route, because it was just kind of changing over from um, just before they started calling it graphic design. It was when
it was before, I would say only 5 years before I was doing it. This is why it's so crazy, because most of us are around the same decade age, right? But there was 5 years right before I was doing it that we weren't on computers. We were still screen printing, hand illustrating. It was commercial art still.
Commercial art, yeah. It was still
Yeah.
commercial art. And it was, I got a lot of if you go into art, you're kind of stuck being an art teacher or a starving artist. And so that's why I went to business and marketing, but never pulled it together. So now I feel like I'm finally able to pull this together. So with my daughter, seeing my daughter in the program at the same school that I'm at, or I went to undergrad at, and seeing what she's doing in graphic design for her undergrad is just, it's really exciting. So yeah.
I love it.
She's also on Redbubble.
Yeah, I love it.
And then I take some of her designs when I make things for her and turn them into SVGs, and then they're in my Etsy shop too. So
So good.
so we have that going, yeah.
Jalin has been with us for a shorter amount of time, but you've been thinking about this for a while, like trying to figure out your next step. So let's talk about your design business, because you've had a little bit of a different journey than these two.
Mhm. So, like them, I grew up with creativeness, crafting all around me all the time. My mom loved it. And she was always painting or sewing something. She was one that the only clothes she wore in high school were the clothes that she made. And so that was the environment I grew up in. But I also grew up on a farm where everybody participated. And so I always wanted to have a business where I could have the family participate. I have 7 kids, and so I have a lot of helping hands when they want to. But I've seen a lot of creativity come out of my kids too. And so that's really why I am enjoying the business end of things, because they can participate. I've always been creative. I always love to take my ideas and put it out. But I think my biggest thing with a design business, I started it when my son was getting ready to leave on a mission for our church. And he was trying to earn money. And my friend approached me, who owns a craft show in the area. She says, I want to give him a booth to help him earn money. And I'm like, and what are we going to do? And she says, you have a silhouette, do something with that. And I'm like, well, what do I do? And she says, let's do t-shirts. And that really started this journey about 5 years, a little over 5 years ago. And I love watching the people's faces when they see their product. They have a design, they come to me, or an idea, and they come to me and they're like, what can we do? And then we pull it together. And when they show up to pick it up, I love to see their faces, because inevitably they have to take it out of the bag so that they can see it before they walk up. And they're so excited. And I'm just like, I did that. I took their idea and made it real. And I see them in town wearing it or using it. And it just brightens my day, because I know that I was able to be a part of something that is different and unique and represents the person.
Yeah. That is so true, right? There is something about giving the thing. You're almost like, when you see their faces, you're like, I would have done that for free, because it just feels so darn good. Right. So, I love that so much. So I would love to know the most important lesson that you've learned over creating your design business. So like, what's the thing that you're like, man, that was a game changer. That was the thing that I was like, I learned that, and it really, man, it solidified some things for me. So we'll start with Emily on this one.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
You can't take mine.
Ditto.
It's funny.
Well, don't we text each other that occasionally, Kristi?
It's so funny. As a teacher, as someone who's an instructor, and as I was teaching, like, there are certain phrases that you guys all say now because I say them so often, but like, I wasn't like, oh, these are going to be my phrases. It was like literally me almost scolding you guys, like, stay in your lane, stop choosing other things, just stay right here and really focus. And really stay in your lane is just focus, like just focus.
Last January, or I guess more than one, January 23, when we in Missouri, when we sat down and I was like, I still had these other ideas. I had to get them out of my head, and I dumped them. I threw them out there. I got them out of my head. And you're like, you feel better now? I said, yeah. And you know what? They're gone. They're gone. I shut it down. They're gone. I saw that they were not worth it. I got it out of my head. And so I could be back and staying in my lane. And but at the same time, it's stay in your lane, but also know where to take the curve. It's not, you know what? It's sometimes you say about when you need to pivot. It's more like when you need to take the curve in the road.
Yeah.
I think because we're still trying to aim and to stay in the lane, but sometimes the curve in the road takes you a little bit differently, and that's still staying in your lane, but knowing when to take take the correct turn in the road. So.
Yeah, it's a fine line that we all toe as designers to know when it's time to pivot. And there's some big pivots, right? Like, even in my career, there's been some big pivots. I remember when I went from digital scrapping to SVGs. Like, that was a really big pivot. But the crazy part is, it really wasn't that big of a pivot, because it was still the same people. It was still scrapbookers at the time,
Right.
So it's kind of knowing when where and how, you know, to make those little pivots, but you're still figuring out how to stay in your lane, because that's really important for long-term design, your brand, how you're
Mhm.
creating things and how you're selling things. Kristi, do you have a different one, or you want to keep going on this?
It's the same, and I absolutely. First of all, I think Jalin, you need to make us all shirts that say "Stay in Your Lane." Therapy by Carina Gardner, because I really am not kidding. And honestly, it's the same one. I will say it's the same one, but there has been a lot. If I have to pick one, that's probably what it is. Because as a crafter, as a creator, just like I said, I've got all these things I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, I want to make fabric. Oh no, I want to make paper. Oh wait, I got to make the paper to go with the hat. Da, 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 da. And Karina's like, stop it, stop it. No, not really. That I sound meaner than Karina is, but stay in your lane. It's like Emily said, taking those curves in the road, because there are changes to that, right? When we get our critiques, we're like, oh, duh, I didn't even think about that. And Karina says something, we're like, okay, it's not turning the blinker on to change lanes. It's just turning that curve in the road. I think that was a great analogy, Emily, that you used. And we need help with that. And especially, I don't want to put all creators and crafters in the same bucket, but I think we kind of can pretty much say that we all have, there's other things we want to do. And so I'm like, get the SVGs done, get this thing done, so I can then do the paper that goes with it, so that I can then do the fabric that goes with it. Like, that's what my plan is. And it takes time. And that first stage of all of this has been mind boggling to me, more than just stay in your lane. I've learned some things about myself that some I don't like. And I'm like, wait, what? So I think that's been, and for me, of course, with working corporate and travel and all the things, time and creating the time, making sure the time is there. And then I soon learned, this is one of the bad things I learned about myself. And Karina, I've tattled already on myself, that I kept thinking, I don't have time to do this. I'm going to do this. When in reality, it wasn't the time. There were other things that have been keeping me from doing the things I needed to do. So we eliminated the time issue, right? Because that's not a problem. I am very busy, yes, but how to maneuver, how to pivot. So those
Yeah,
are mine.
it is true. And I will say the most fascinating thing, you know, I got into this to teach design, right? And then I was like, I don't want to do community. And then you guys all forced me to make you guys all meet and talk to each other. And then we do retreats and all of that stuff. And so then that piece came into play. But then the other interesting piece of this has been so fascinating is what you just said, the design therapy. I don't consider myself some magically insightful person, but the thing that happens over and over again is we find that creativity is really interconnected with our personal life. And so if we don't have our personal lives in a certain order, it makes it really, really hard to run a design business. And once you realize that, you realize, oh, the program has to be life-changing in that it has to address our personal needs along with our business needs, because that's actually how we're successful. It's making sure that we're aligned in a lot of different ways. That's really tough, you guys,
It
because
really is.
I think most educators were really just trying to like do the one education piece. But the moment I realized like this is an all-encompassing thing, that's how Design Suite changed to meet more needs. Like the things I talk about in our Thursday trainings or the podcast or when I'm teaching you guys ends up being a lot about like what's really going on right now. Because very often if you're really stuck, it's like, wait, but like really what's going on right now? Because it really is not about this. It's always about this over there. And
100%. Yeah.
that's really actually very important. And I recognize that about myself as well. So it's so good. Jalin, all right. What's the most important thing that you think you've learned on your design business journey?
Oh man, stay in your lane is definitely one, and that's one I'm struggling with right now. In my last call with Asia, I was just like, okay, I know I need to stay in my lane, but I really feel like I need to make this pivot, and so I'm gonna make the pivot. I am nervous. It's a totally different ball game, but I'm excited. Every time I think about it, I get excited. Another thing, when you were talking about personal lives, this morning I was actually thinking, every design I have has a story behind it, and it's not just something I just sit down and doodle. I always have a reason to make that design, and it always has a backstory that has meaning to it. And so, like the shirt I did, the design I have today is because my daughter does have severe mental health problems, and I have another daughter-in-law who wants to get into design, and she's just like, how do you decide what to do? And I says, I just have this app that it's a wheel, and I hit the wheel and it tells me what category to do, whether it's SVG or whether it's a quote or whether it's a holiday or whatever. And then I have a secondary wheel that I spin, and it says, so I rolled it and it went to quote, and then I rolled the quote one and it went to mental health. And so while we're sitting there, then I just started researching what's some quotes for mental health. And this is the one that stood out to me, the Inhale Confidence, Exhale Doubt. And I came up with a couple versions of it and a couple others, and it just stuck. But there's a story. And every time I wear it, it just reminds me that it's okay to take a deep breath and know that we're okay. Because it's easy to doubt. It's easy to doubt ourselves, but it's more important to have the confidence within ourselves. And as a designer, we do that a lot.
I love everything about this. First of all, you gamified your process. You guys are hearing this, right? She just gamified her process because she has a spinner situation. That is the first I've heard, Jalin, of anyone doing something like that. So I love that. I love the gamification. And second of all, you made sure that whatever you did was meaningful and fulfilling. And I do think those two things are really hard to force yourself to do, especially, you guys know, production. I have to gamify production for myself to make sure that I will actually do it. I love that. So good. And I do love that, like, every time you wear that shirt, you're going to remember the doubt piece and the confidence piece, which it is easy to doubt, is it not? Very hard to like embrace confidence with ourselves. And that has been a very interesting piece of not just Design Suite, but just like friendships that I see happening within our program. Because you start to see people being more confident that they can do it, that they are worth it. I saw the most interesting thing. I think it was Donald Miller yesterday, the day before, where he basically said, what's the difference between a delusional dream of something and just having a really big goal? And he was like, there's no difference. The only difference is sometimes that big goal actually happens, and so you just have to be like, I'm out there doing this. I'm going to be confident with it. And I think it's okay to have the delusional dream. I really do. And I was glad he said that, because I was like, I've had some pretty delusional dreams, and they've come true. I mean, what the heck? I have a university. If someone had told me 3.5 years ago that I would have a university, not that I would just go teach at another university, I would have been like, you are crazy sauce. Who in their right mind would be like, I'm going to start a university? Clearly not me. So anyway, so
Well,
crazy.
I've always said, Carina, and I've said this to you and in our group, that we all have, we all trust you. Like, if you told me to go make something ugly, which you're not going to do, I would go, okay, I would do it. And because the success, you've been where I want to go. That's what I've always said. And if you're dreaming crazy dreams, rock on, let's do it, because I can't dream them if you are my leader. And that's how this all works. And so I think it comes with that trust and knowing you've been where we want to go. And so that's what I look at. I'm like, sometimes I have crazy dreams. I'm like, well, Carina dreamed this up and she didn't think she could do it. So here we are, leave it in my journal, my morning routine of my journal, because Carina said it's going to come true. Right. So,
and it does. That's the craziest part. I keep seeing people write crazy things down and then it comes true. And you're like,
yeah,
okay, there is something here to being in a community of people who just want to level up. Right.
Yeah.
Really.
One of my pastors told me once, oh, sorry, go ahead, Emily.
I was going to say, that's the other thing that's really great about Design Suite, is because, like, all the times that I knew that I was trying to figure out what I needed to do and where I needed to go, I would find this course and this program and this thing and this thing. and I was piecemealing, and I'd get to a point where it'd say, okay, now you need to do this. Well, how do we do that? Now I have to go find somebody else to follow to figure out. And Design Suite and Karina brought it all together. And occasionally there's something that we need to find something else out, but or you either end up providing it for us, or you send us in the right direction to get that, so that then we can still, and we still can, it's the right direction to get exactly what we need and come back to continue the resources instead of getting what we need there and then following that path. So it really all comes back into one thing and encompasses, and that's the, even back in the beginning question, that's really what brings it all together, and how I finally getting to where I want to be, and everything, because of the resources and the people and the community all being together.
Yeah. Thank you.
100%.
Also, we do listen to you guys. Darn it. I listen almost too much to you guys, because I sure do keep adding stuff. Because every time you're like, we don't know how to do workflow, Karina, I'm like, oh, let's make a class for that. Oh,
And we
AI
listen to
freaking
you
stuff.
too, so that's
Let's
why
make
we're
a
doing
class
well,
for
because we listen to you.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I think it's actually a really powerful thing to be listening to your membership, because of that, you guys get what you actually need. I remember, was it last fall? Like, someone was like, "What about watermarks?" And we were like, "Thank goodness we set up our meetings the way we do." Because I was like, "Asia, will you do watermarks in Learning Lab?" And she was like, "Yeah." So it's like we can constantly be shifting to whatever you guys are worried about, concerned about, want to design, want to talk about. We're kind of here for that in the moment, which is pretty cool. Did you have a thought, Kristi?
No, I was just going to say, my pastor one time had told me that a minister mentor said, you dream all these crazy dreams, right? And then as those dreams would come to pass, he would say, because in that you're like, I'm complaining. I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. Or how do I do this or whatever? He said, don't forget, you're living your dream. And I was like, oh, it kind of put me back in my place to say, you can dream these crazy dreams, but when it gets hard, don't forget this was your dream. So don't forget that when the hard times come, because they're here. They're always here. They're never going to go away, but you just keep pushing through. That was all I was going to say.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I think that's really, really good. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So, best and worst part of owning a design business. Best and worst part. I'm going to start with Jalin on this one.
The constant knowledge that you have the responsibility to do everything. That it's not going to happen without your effort. And for me, consistency is the hardest part of the design business. The best part, just being there for everybody. It's so fun. I just went into Facebook to just the last couple of weeks to post some things, and I see these comments, and I'm like, what were these comments for? And it's all my friends saying, hey, I need a shirt for this, and I need a shirt for that, and this is what I want. And it's just everybody's thinking about you, but it just keeps your mind going, keeps you excited, because they like what you do.
Yeah. I think that's more important than people realize. I think I know sometimes we talk about ego in a bad way, but I actually think this is where ego in your business is actually pretty important. To know that you are needed and your stuff is liked is actually pretty important. And I think getting your ego stroked a little bit is actually very important for your confidence in your business.
It is.
I think it makes you want to create more. I think it gets you excited to create more. And maybe ego is not even the right word for it, but just I think that's a confidence boost that we as business owners need to have. I think consistency is a problem for everybody. Like, it's a hard thing to make sure and stay consistent. So I think that's real as well. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right, Emily, best and worst part of owning a design business.
I can make that. It's good and bad, because you get the people that say, can you make that? Yeah, I can make that. Sometimes I don't want to. And so I'm really learning to say, I can make that, but I don't want to. I'm not going to right now. It's not the direction I'm headed. don't want to buy more materials. I don't want to invest in that, in those type of things. Or at the same time, I see somebody that makes something and I go, I could have made that better. So, that I can make that, I can do that is good and bad, because sometimes it's like it gives me the ideas of, oh, I can make that, and I'll start going, and other times it's like, yeah, I can make that, I don't want to, or I could have done that better, and so you have that in your mind all the time, I think.
Yeah,
And
double-edged sword.
even the things that like I'll be doing a spreadsheet and I'll be like, oh, I can make this pretty, and I'll go, why? It's a spreadsheet. Why? Why am I spending my time? Because I can. Stop.
Yeah, that's that
So,
focus and stay in your lane piece, right? Like functional is functional, beautiful is beautiful. Not everything has to be functional and beautiful.
yeah.
That's a great quote right there.
Yeah. So good. I love it, Emily. All right, Kristi, best and worst part of owning a design business.
So I agree with both Jalin and Emily both, but I think for me the best part is, like I said earlier, building something that will carry on after I'm not here, after I'm not planning on going anywhere, by the way, but like just the legacy part of that, and to be able to pull all that together, like I said earlier, of my passion. I mean, if I could spend all day doing my craftiness, I would, but I can't obviously at this point, but I will. But there's the business side of it too that is a whole different ball game than just sitting crafting all day. So I think the best part is being able to pull all my knowledge together from all the years to include my corporate job. Like all my years of finance and corporate, I'm like, dude, I'm watching all of this play out in my design business, which is really interesting. So I think that's the best part for me. And just having the freedom to be able to have secondary income and things like that, just for a rainy day type of thing. The worst, I think, is production. I'm terrible. And consistency goes along with that. And then hey, can you hem my pants because you know how to sew? No, I can't. Like all of that is probably the worst. But I think production and consistency, and making sure that I'm sticking to my lane, all of that, I think is where I'm at. And learning the business side. I'm in business all day long, but some of it bleeds over into the design business, when some of it doesn't, because it's just different flow, so.
Yeah. And not all business is the same, right? Like I always say, like if you do a case study when you're doing an MBA, it may never ever apply to a design business, because it is a whole team. Whereas like when Jalin was saying, like, I have to do it all, I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. You're the CEO and the creative director and the main designer and the marketing specialist. You are all the things. And so you're not dealing with team problems. You're dealing with time problems, or you're dealing with marketing problems, or you're dealing with SEO problems. And so all of those things really come and impact you in a different way than another business would have. Very interesting, Kristi. So last question for all of you guys. So you did this event, you guys should go get their freebies. But if people wanted to find out more about you, other than getting their freebies, you guys, because you'll learn more about them by just grabbing that, where can people find you guys, or where do you want them to find you? So we'll start with Emily on this one.
I just worked on updating my website so that it has everything together. So hopefully that's all set up. So my website is Harper & Co. And it's not it's NCO, which is actually my kids' initials.com. And on Etsy, I'm Harper & Co. Designs for my digital products, and Harper & Co. For my physical products, which is Christmas ornaments.
So good. And you guys will hear this, even though we talk about staying in your lane, most people in our program have 2 or 3 shops, sometimes a little more than that, and sometimes a physical shop and a digital shop. And a lot of that is market research more than anything else, as well as actually selling and making money. Jalin, where can people find you?
So right now I am on Etsy, and it's Jalin Bingham Design is the name of my shop. I also have a Facebook page. My original name of my company was I Love Mondays. And so that's my Facebook page, is I Love Monday Shop. And that is where I'm doing my pivot. And so I will be putting up an Etsy shop here soon. I'm working on the products, and it will be under I Love Mondays, something, whatever is available.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I think the hardest part about a pivot, especially like when you're on something like this, is like, hey guys, you just have to wait a second. Like I'm starting this new thing, which is super duper exciting. So if you guys want to go watch and see her progress, just maybe go Google it in and go see what she is doing and how she is doing it. So I have no doubt that she's going to rock it in this new endeavor. So she still has her old endeavors, but this
And I
new
will
endeavor will be
continue to
fun.
put that on there because I have thousands of designs. I just need to put out somewhere. I just need to do the production on them.
I know the production. So good. Okay, Kristi, where can people find you?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to say production equals hiring someone. I'm there. Just time, like whatever. Anyway, you can find me at Etsy, KristiRachelleStudio.com on Etsy, and not .com, on Etsy. I've just, because of working on all of our designs and growing all of that, I've just started my Instagram. There is literally maybe one post on there. Again, focusing on design first and staying in your lane with that. I've just started my Instagram, Kristi Rachelle Studio. And so I will be having a website coming and all of that for all the goodies and different things. But I would say the best place is Etsy and my email. Sign up for that email and be able to get those updates as new products come out and new Instagram posts and things like that. So if you want to sign up, that is also with my freebies where you can find my email there and or on Etsy. So
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I teach as we kind of wrap this up is I actually teach our designers on the first year not to get into social media, which is a really interesting thing because it backfires me because then none of my designers are talking about all the stuff they're doing. But I still think it's really important because the focus is always about making money and starting a business, not on marketing. That doesn't work in the first year. And I'm really careful about that. So I love that Kristi just barely started it. She's doing it exactly right. Because at the end of the day, you know, people get really caught up with like being told they have to do all these marketing things that don't necessarily work and don't help you in the short run, which at the beginning of a design business, we've got to really consider and pay attention to the short run. So Kristi did it right. It's awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much for sharing. Can I get hearts and thank yous in the chat, you guys? I know you guys have been saying such cool things in the chat. In fact, I'm going to say, Susie says, you give me momentum. I get excited about something and then I need to know how to do something and hit a speed bump. I get my answer quickly and I keep going. So I love it. So good, you guys. You guys are so good.
Emily, how you get those?
Oh,
look, I got them.
yeah, that's awesome. Emily,
I was trying really hard. Emily's got it. I'm so sorry. I got a little distracted there.
This is our family thing. We do this on our FaceTime all the time, is try to get new things to come up.
I know.
One day,
If it's not exactly
One
the
day
part, it doesn't do it.
I don't know what meeting I was in, but one time they came all this little party things. I'm like, dude, that was the perfect timing. I could have done
Confetti,
better.
like when it does the
That was
confetti.
awesome. I was like, sorry.
I love it. You guys, thank you so much for sharing your stories. You guys go check out their freebies, go watch their classes today. I think you'll be really inspired by what you can do. All right. See you guys.